morning all. This is the third part in this 4-part series, and there are two eminent speakers, experts who have already spoken about energy, and neither an expert nor eminent, and I am the third in the line. So you have to bear with me. I know that this is a small group, but the high quality. It's not a quantity that matters, but the quality that matters, and I'm pretty happy and glad that the organization one has invited me to talk about the energy, specifically on renewable energy. Before I get on to that, I was very surprised. Is the election ready? Is that a nickname or is your actual name?
My actual name.
Oh, wonderful! So appropriate for one. It's all democratic, and then so election is right there. Overseeing. So before I get on with this talk, I definitely do not want to bore you. I know it's a very precious time that you've all taken to come and then talk about, hear me talk about this one. I wanted to quickly get a poll of this audience, just to understand. How many of you are in IT? I saw election is in IBM and who? Oh my God! Okay, so it's almost like I would say about 70%. How many of you currently are working on renewable energy? Solar, wind, whatever it is actually. How many of you?
As a topic.
As a topic, I see. Okay. And then how many of you are there students here as well? Okay, a couple of guys. Okay, and then may I know what do you guys do?
I'm an analyst in oil and gas.
Oh, okay. So you are on the energy industry. So how about you?
I am an entrepreneur.
You are an entrepreneur. Excellent. And may I know the
I'm a retired employee of oil industry.
Oil industry. I see. Okay. How about you, ma'am? Oh, excellent. I see. Okay. So it's please.
I'm designing in infotainment.
In infotainment. Okay, that's fine actually. So I think so it's a predominantly an IT one. And I think I can connect with you because I was to be not long ago. Now it's long ago because almost about 7-8 years back. And I thought, okay, so what I wanted to do today was, I think I was to talk about the policies, okay. And I want to tell you, I'm not a policy guy. My perspective on policy is not too great. I'm sure there are much better speakers who can come. But what I wanted to do was. Just want to take you through, what am I doing and why am I doing? I think that would sort of give some idea about this one. And then also sort of in the process, talk about, where are we going with respect. I think Chaitanya mentioned about this 0.5%, 10%, where does this all fit in the overall scheme of things. I thought that is what I wanted to do, and then also I have a colleague of mine, from Solarsys. All of these guys are all of us are from IT. Okay, so this guy moved back from US, and then I put him in one of the megawatt scale plant near Kadri, where he spent about 4 months, basically staying in a hut, actually putting together the whole plant. And I thought, I would let him talk because that's direct from the horse's mouth, actually. Okay, so let's talk about this energy evolution or an electricity evolution, correct? Do you all recognize this gentleman on the left? Dr. Bell, right? So Dr. Bell, what I was thinking was, I was, doing this Back to the Future thing. What would happen if Dr. Bell were alive today, correct? Now look at, if he were alive today, I don't think he would recognize his invention at all, actually, correct? The medium of communication has changed, the device has changed, and then the whole, the whole gamut of what he had invented to where it is now, it has completely undergone a revolution, and I don't think he himself would even recognize, what he had invented, correct? Look at this gentleman below. He is Dr. Edison, you all know, correct? He would be very glad actually, because in electricity nothing has changed in the last 100 years actually, if you were to look at it at a high level, correct? So he would be very happy because the switchyard that he is seeing, it's exactly the same, what it was almost about 80, 100 years back. So this is the problem. Okay, and this also, I think, presents an opportunity. Correct. So that's the whole, premise of my talk today. Okay. So now what's happening is, if you look at where are we going with respect to energy, correct? till about about 10 years back, all the way from 1960s onwards, when the so-called industrial revolution started, when the automobile revolution started, energy was not considered as a problem at all. Correct? The problem was we wanted to produce more, and by producing more, you will be able to bring down the cost. And it was considered as an infinite amount of resource. I don't think anybody sort of planned to say that I wanted to have a lower energy in terms of when they were when we were going through this the sort of the industrial revolution one. And of course all we were talking about is, hey, we'll keep on producing more, bring down the end usage cost, and then anyway energy is not a problem because we have inexhaustible energy. That period is ended. We all agree, correct? I'm pretty sure right now we would be running off of BG, so we know what we are talking about. So now what happens is we all know that the energy cost has been completely going up. People in Hyderabad can completely understand, especially if you have an industry, if you are going through what is called as RNC measures that the APERC has gone through. Now we know that energy costs are rising, and we know that the energy is finite. And we know that it is harmful if we were to sort of take out all this non-renewable one. And of course now the whole the infrastructure growth is restrained by this energy only. As Chaitanya was saying, your nation's growth, your nation's GDP is now hinges on one topmost point, which is going to be energy. Correct? Everything else is second, third, fourth, fifth rank one, but energy is right at the top. So it's all the more important for us to sort of address this in a pragmatic way. And what I very seriously believe is this actions we are going to take in terms of policies, in terms of regulations, in terms of the individual the social responsibility, in terms of entrepreneurship, in the next 5 years this would be far more than whatever we have done in the last 100 years. So we definitely want to go back to that slide and then put up a newer energy there where even Dr. Edison would not recognize, actually, correct? Which I clearly think is going to happen, and that's where we are going. Okay, so I want to take some time and then talk about see what happened was this energy. I think this is almost all of you would agree. I have not made any sort of controversial statement yet. What happened was by 2006, I was in an IT industry. I'm basically a chip designer, actually, correct? So we did a lot of VLSI design, and Professor Garu has been our guru for us. And then so 2006, I said that, hey, I want enough of that, because our claim to fame was we did the chip which went into Apple iPods, actually. So this is a company called Portal Player. And 2001, having a digital music player was a cool thing, and we said, hey, we are going to do that. And fortunately, we were able to do it, and the company was successful. And then when I decided to sort of move out of this energy industry, correct? I'm a smart guy, correct? So I thought, I'm going to do smart stuff, actually, correct? So I was trying to look for, really complex problems to solve, actually, okay? And that was a big mistake I did. Okay, so I'll tell you about that, I thought I'd talk about it. See, what happened was, I was thinking that, this energy is in a shambles, and then I am the sort of guy who has to come and then change this whole industry and so on. And then I was fortunate to take over a leadership role at SUCAM Power Systems. Many of you may have heard about SUCAM, actually, correct? Which is into, predominantly into inverters. Now they are into renewable energy, solar, and so on and so forth. So when I took over as CEO of SUCAM, I said I am going to design what is called as a next generation, energy device, in a way, correct? So what this device does, this is available in the market today. I'm sure in Hyderabad you can buy it as well. So this what you see on this device is called as a power dock. As the name indicates, it's a power doctor, actually, right? So it will basically, you plug it into your wall socket, okay? It will tell you, if the quality of the waveform is poor, it will basically disconnect your output so that your devices are not damaged, right? And then you connect now, to your, let's say, computer or a fridge or something. It will tell you how much power that fridge is consuming, correct? Because that's also important for us, correct? And then you put it on for about 6 hours, it will tell you how much is the consumption that had happened for a day, actually, correct? And then you can even remotely control it with an inverter saying that, hey, when my power is not there, when the DG is available, I want this socket to turn itself off actually, correct? Right? So I thought, it is a need of the hour because, you need basically, these kind of devices to, make some kind of, the energy has been sort of very, vague phenomena, right? At least it was trying to quantify some of the aspect of it, right? How many of you think this is a good product? Okay, the hands are rising up slowly because, okay. How many of you think it's a bad product actually? Nobody thinks. Okay.
I mean, obviously keeping a track of how much we consume is very important.
Good point. And I think we are all thinking the same, right? This product was a disaster. Okay. And I wanted to take you through what has gone through there. Okay. First thing, 80% of India is living in 1 and 2 bedroom homes. Okay, they have 1 CFL. If they are good, they have 2 CFLs, and if they are even better, they have 1 fan. It's not that they are luxurious to say that okay, now my energy is more, I want to turn it off one and run another. No, it's not the case, right? What we are seeing in this room is not the real India, correct, in a way, correct. And the second thing is the energy is a necessity for most of the people, so for them, so what I did was this product I did, and then SUCAM has about 300 distributors all over India. So I took it upon myself saying that I'll go, and then I also, when I became CEO, I said that I'll go and meet with every single distributor all over India just to introduce myself, also in the process introduce this product, right? So these guys are all the way from Nagarkovil to Goa to Siliguri to Jammu, all the places. Of course, I could not visit each of their dealers in turn, but when I went there and then showed them the product, nobody was excited actually, correct? And the reason for that is, we need some device, we need a power, it's not something which is going to be measuring the power. Then you realize that, you really don't need smart and sexy solutions. Okay, what you need is, actually, this was a big, eye opener for me. I thought I would take time to talk about it. Correct. See, what happened is, at that time, my focus was, I would create a bleeding edge, solution, correct, and I would make sure that it would be one of the best which would address all the problems. But I have not actually thought about what they really want. I didn't take time to listen to people actually, which is the problem, correct. Then of course went through that, and then I saw that the opportunity lies right here. Correct. See, the problem is not sexy, correct. It's but if you look at it, this is a huge problem that we have got. In terms of we talked about so much of power is the AT&C losses, as the people call it, the aggregate technical and commercial losses. You have a problem which is nothing to do. You don't need a smart technology. All you need is a right solution for the market, which may not be a very jazzy equipment itself. Actually, that is one point I thought I will take time to talk about today. So now what happens is this is you all know what is there on the top right, correct? That's a lead acid battery, correct? How many of you have one at home? Okay, very less actually. So many of you do not have inverters at home, I suppose, actually, correct? So now if you look at it, can you guess how big is this battery market? Huge. Put a number for me, please. Is it like $100 million or $500 million, or is it more than that, less than that, or it's about $10 billion? Where do you think it is actually? We'll go through that. I'm sure it's not an easy one. See, what happens is, if you look at, there are these telecom towers, all the cell phones that what we have got, there are about 200,000 telecom towers in India today, and it's increasing. The plan is to have about 320,000 towers the next 5 years. And each one of those towers, you go there, you will find a 48-volt battery bank there. Okay, so you are talking about 5 million of these batteries there. The so-called lead acid battery. Lead acid battery, for your information, is banned in US. You don't even find this battery in outside of India, China, and Southeast Asian countries, right? And you look at our home inverters, whatever that we have for the power backup. Every one of this, even if you have the smallest of small inverter, you need about 2 batteries. What they call the 24-volt system. This consumes about 8 million batteries, every year. Actually. Okay, 8 million systems are being sold for these inverters. And of course the UPSs, the data centers and all what we have here and all the IT ones, they also consume, but they are smaller capacities, about 10 million batteries, right? And of course railways require a huge, because you go inside the railway, all of them are with the battery bank, with with the conversion which is happening. And here I am not even talking about the solar, which is a big market now for off-grid solar batteries. And e-vehicles, tractions, defense, all of these are this. This today is a $1.5 billion market for India. Okay, the market is not sexy as they call it, correct? But this is bigger than half of our IT companies combined actually, correct? So that's a, so now if you look at this battery, there is no way you will know when the battery dies actually. Do you agree with me? The battery you have at home, and then suddenly somebody says that आपका battery तो charge खत्म हो गया. Actually आपका battery replace करना पड़ेगा because you don't have the cycle is gone and all of that. And if you look at it, there is a simple solution for a battery monitoring and a management solution, correct? We don't have that. Exide is trying to do that. A lot of guys are trying to do that, but we don't have it. You know why? Because I consider that this is not the core problem that people are looking at. It's not a sexy problem as I see it actually, correct? Because this is a very corrosive environment. If you want to have an electronics put there, it's not an easy one to do. But if you actually look at, I have to put one slide. This is not a big deal at all actually. Okay, but there is an opportunity there, and there is an opportunity because this for all the reasons we talked about. Now I know that there are several guys who are very, very fervently trying to incorporate that into the battery itself. For example, another 1-2 years down the line, if you look at the battery, just like the battery is what we have on a Dell laptop, right? Look at back, it will tell you, you have 75% of your life is left or 50% of your life is left. The same thing can be done for your lead acid batteries as well actually. So what is the point I am trying to do is, there are opportunities which are out there which may not be initially showing up as that good as what I had shown as a smart meter one actually, correct? Smart meter, I am sure everybody recognizes that, but this is equally a big opportunity as well actually, correct? So okay, so now what I wanted to do is, this is our very first installation of our solar. It's a very small installation in a place near Visakhapatnam. From Anakapalli, you go up north, into that jungle. It's a village called Kapparmanji, actually, correct? So this village, what happened? Of course, to reach the village, you have to trek for about 4-5 kilometers. And then there was no grid there. Forget about power, because there is not even, the grid cannot even come there. So somebody said that please put up a solar, because the solar insulation is good. And then so what we did is, instead of giving a traditional one light at their home, we said that okay, we'll provide a centralized sort of a microgrid kind of thing, so that you put these panels, and then you have these inverters, batteries and all right there behind, and then through an AC wire you basically connect it to individual homes. There are about, I forgot, about 60 homes or 70 homes are there actually. So when we did that, what happened was, then so we connected that. There is no big technology here, and then this was done by an NGO called Grand Lodge of India. So there was an inauguration that was done. They called all of us and all. And then when I went to one of these village hut homes, and then there was this lady with a very newborn child actually. Okay. And then when we put on that light, this lady had one amazing smile on her face, and she was talking with lot of Oriya accent. I think there in that part of that one they have. So we were trying to find out what she is trying to say. They were saying that, oh, I have never seen my baby, in the after 6 o'clock. I do not know how this baby looks like actually. It is. And then I realized, one thing that struck me was, one is technology part of it. The other one is, we are at a stage where we can actually make this kind of, these are all very minute differences, but you got to be there to appreciate what was going on actually. Correct. So then at the same time, my son was learning through this cycling. So I bought one cycle which is little higher than what he could handle. And then this guy was every day. This is not my son, by the way. I didn't have the photograph actually. So what he was trying to do was he was trying to learn the cycle, and then because the height was more, he was getting hurt actually. And then every day he will come with one hurt, and then we sort of take care of him. And slowly what he did was, we have this mechanism to put your leg underneath your this thing and start pedaling it. What do you call that name as actually?
Kaichi.
Kanchi, yeah? Kaichi, okay. So the Kaichi mode of one, he learned it actually, correct? And then, so at that time, I was going through the Kapparmachi project and he was learning the cycling, and almost at the, same time this was going on. Then one thing that struck me was, the process is important. For him the motivation is, oh, I don't want to learn the cycle, and then I would trek up the Himalayas, or I would go to school in the this thing. But the process of learning the cycling, he didn't care about how much hurt he was getting. He didn't care about what would happen if I am a failure on that, or what would happen if I never learn the cycling. All of us have gone through that, correct? But the process, what he was going through was, hey, it's fun, let me fall down, it's fun, let me learn, it's fun. And that exactly was happening, at that time for me at Kapparmachi as well. The process doesn't matter, because, we all have to trek, we all have to sort of, it's not a very hospitable environment. But if you're enjoying it, then you realize that, you have fun in the process actually. That was a big lesson for me. Then people ask about, hey, how do you have a, a revenue plan growth for Solarsis, or do you have, how much is your business plan? I said, forget about it, man. I am enjoying now. Let it happen. As long as I don't drain anybody's money, I don't have a problem actually, right? So that's another learning for me, because that helped me to take my mind out in terms of looking too far into the future, and then not enjoying what you have at hand actually, right? And that's a learning. So what I wanted to do here is, I'll stop here for a minute, and then the next step what we did was to put up this we have a plant which is running in Kadri, which is near Anantapur. We have two running plants in Andhra Pradesh. One is near Chennai in a place called Sri City. That's a 2 megawatt plant, and we also have a megawatt scale plant in Kadri. So this Kadri one, we started, and then I had to basically start recruiting the team and start doing all of that. And then we had a time restrictions and so on. So so that experience I wanted Vijay to share. I think that's going to be useful. After that, I'm going to do what I want to do is quickly talk about the renewable energy policies and what do we have got, what are all the issues, challenges, some of the things Chaitanya addressed, and then wrap it up with some conclusions. Actually, I will request Vijay to come. So what I want, I go back. Yeah, so this is the Kadri plant what we have got. So this is the actual plant photograph. This plant is commissioned in January of this year. It's about 8 months back. Vijay was working in Atmel in USA. Like most of us did the masters there, started working there, and then he one day decided saying that I wanted to come back for whatever reason best known to him. And then I came to know about it, and then we met, and then he joined us. And then this was neither easy from the solar industry nor that we knew what we wanted to do. And then but he went through that, and then he was in charge of this project, and then being there and then executing this project. I will request Vijay to come and then talk about it. I'll continue.
So what, as Venkat was saying, what I do at SolarSys is install, plant, design a power plant, whether it's a big power plant as a megawatt scale or it's a small rooftop systems, and then we procure the material and get it installed and so on and so forth, whatever is involved in the entire process. So, and the main thing is, I'm having fun doing this, and that's the whole point. I'll go through this, my experience a little bit and why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's, similar to what my boss was saying, and then you'll see what I'm talking about actually. So, this last Wednesday, I was in this place called Swami Sadanand Maharaj Ashram in a place called Tungareshwar near Mumbai actually. Okay, so it's almost like 7 kilometers from the highway, and we went up and it was just me, and we went up and then saw the place, and we had to install a 50 kilowatt system there. Then after I saw the thing, everything, I came back, and one of my friends was asking, how was it? I said, oh, it's a very beautiful place, and I really liked everything. I even met the Swamiji Maharaj who was there. So, but you're supposed to maintain some distance on the Maharaj, maybe about 5 feet of distance. So it's basically like, looking but no touching, similar to my ex-girlfriend sort of thing actually. So, it was, but the fun part, of going there was like, this place, right, it's in a jungle, it's in a forest. And there is no way electricity will ever reach there, but you're going to put up a solar, and you're going to power up that place, and whatever it is good for, people who come there to meditate, whatever, and they have energy, and I see that is the beauty of this entire thing actually, and this other story, when the Sandy storm hit New York recently, right, the entire grid was out for 3 days actually. Unlike India, US is completely, they don't have energy, they're almost dead actually, because every single thing they use energy, heaters and whatnot and everything, So I saw this mobile van, which was a solar mobile van, and they were trying to, power up whatever people needed, like cell phones and whatnot. So they're trying to tell that, okay, there is this solution where you are away from the grid, where if something else goes off somewhere, you are not isolated. You still have energy. So, these are the things that I really, when I came to this and I'm working for the last 2 years, this is what I realized, the power of solar, the power of putting up these plants in places where electricity grid would never go actually. So, actually my background is I'm a chip designer. Basically I worked and I'm from Hyderabad, went to US, studied masters for like a couple of years, then worked in chip industry for about 6 years. But then I kind of, got a little disenchanted by the whole engineering, what I was doing, because I was so away from, my product was never in my hand. I would design it on a computer, I would test it, it would come back, I would test it, it would work brilliantly and everything, and you would sell like a million chips and whatnot. But I was so disconnected from the product, it never felt a part of it. Then, other than that, I'm also kind of, that was, I didn't really like what I was doing. Second part was, I saw all these, movies like Swades and Rang De Vasanti and whatnot, and I was so like, inspired, and my blood boiled, I wanted to do something, go back and do something for India, right? So I said, okay, I'm just going back, I want to do, I don't know what I'm going to do, I have a very vague idea, and I'm just going to jump and see what happens. So when I came back, the easiest thing for me to do was get into technology, because I have some credibility in that field. So I said, okay, I know that solar is the best this thing, because it's based off semiconductor chips actually, which is very similar to what I was trained in, right? So I said, okay, with my electrical background, let me get into this, and this seems like, I've already been researching the field for about 2 years. In US, there's this company called First Solar, which was very close to, where I lived. So I knew about them. There is many other companies which are very famous actually. There's another company called Solindra and so on and so forth. So I came back and then, happened to meet Venkat and then joined SolarSys actually. So at SolarSys, Venkat said, you are in charge of, this 1 megawatt project, it's your baby, you design it, have fun, let me know what happens. So we started working on it, designed the project, and this is a megawatt scale plant generally needs about 5 to 6 acres of land in one place. So initially what happened was, this government, they actually said that, okay, we are going to allot you this land near Kadri. You see? Better?
Yeah,
So the government said, we are going to give you this land near the substation. It's close to the substation. You go and you install it.
you can.
So our project was supposed to be commissioned by September. As Venkat was saying, anything that we said, if we are making a plant and we are sending the power to the government, right? That has to happen by a certain date. That's their mandate actually. So we had to finish by September. But till August the land didn't come actually. And then we realized, okay, this is something called bureaucracy in Indian government. It takes some time. It's not going to happen. Then we said, okay, we are going to find our own land. And we searched and searched and searched. We found this beautiful piece of land which looked like this actually. So we said, okay, fine. We started working on it. And then this other piece of the puzzle, where is getting the equipment, right? Which is the modules and inverters, which forms a major chunk of your cost actually, about 70 to 80% of your cost. At that time, it was about 12 crores or something per megawatt. So it was about costing that much. Out of that, about 70-80%, about 8 crores, 9 crores would be the cost of your modules and inverters. So we have decided, okay, we know we are a technology guys, right? So we said, okay, we want these modules, we want these inverters, we know they will work wonderfully. We got them, and we said, okay, we went to this land, we started actually marking out, getting the civil work done actually. So in this whole process, after the design, actually, I just want to give you a little, this thing about how actually solar, this thing works, how electricity works in this form, right? So what happens is your sunlight, which is incident on your solar panel, right, it is converted into DC electricity. Okay, so in electricity we have DC and AC, right? So what happens is what the current that you use, the electricity that you use in homes, that comes into our homes is AC, right? But the solar power is DC. So the solar module, it grabs your sunlight, it converts it into DC energy that is fed to the solar inverter, that is converted into AC energy, and that AC energy is pumped into the grid. And wherever, if people are putting a motor, industrial, whatever, agricultural motor or whatever, homes, ACs, whatnot, they'll grab that AC energy and consume it. That's the fund of this solar, how this whole thing works. So if you want a little more detail after we are done with the entire thing, I can go into little physics of how this thing actually works, so that you will, better remember how electricity works actually. Okay. So, we started as we started with this thing, land and modules and inverters, and we got all of them. Then we started actually procuring them. Now another part, which is a huge part of this whole solar plant, is these steel structures. So we are a small company, we are an entrepreneurial company, and we have experience, but it's very limited when we compare to giants like Mahindras or Reliance or all these people, right? So whatever we get, we had a limited budget, so we had to procure in that part. So we started, shopping around, and the entire world, like Germany is a mature market. If all they do is decide the size of the plant, spend the money, material comes, they install it, it's done, right? But in India we thought it's going to be that simple, because we have been in similar technology, but that is a huge mistake. Actually. What happened is these steel structures, what people are selling outside was much higher, because it's a very nascent market. We're talking about last year, May-June time frame actually. So every single thing was made so expensive. Whatever was not German or European or American, which was not standard, which is not available in India, that was all pretty much fixed cost. But what was in India, these guys raised prices like hell actually. So we went back to the drawing board. We said, okay, since we cannot afford, we have to innovate. We have to figure out how to do this cheaply actually. So we started working with the local engineers, local companies, and we found out that, we actually could decrease the cost of this entire steel by almost 50%. So it was costing about like a crore and a half or something quoted by a number of people. We could do it in less than half of that price what we could, what we are getting from outside. So that was a huge plus in decreasing, controlling the cost actually. Yeah.
So the cost, you're talking about that steel pillars kind of thing? Is that what
Yeah, the steel structures actually. Okay. So, after this, after you, you have all your material. You have modules, you have your inverters, you have steel structures. What next? Bringing the labor and getting the work started and getting it installed. Right? Now, one of the things, that I kind of, it came from Venkat and I kind of, we all liked it is to use the local labor force to actually implement this project. Generally what happens is that we had a neighbor who was installing this 5 megawatt plant, and we had another neighbor actually. What they were doing is, they would bring this huge teams of labor, maybe from Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or, these huge teams. They would be on the site, they would build all these huts and whatnot, and they would, pay them a fixed amount of money, they would do the work and go, right? But that does not really help the local, local economy actually. Then we started looking at it, all the local labor force available, all the technicians available, and we could get some people but not with the exact experience we wanted, so we started training them. We started training them, the technicians, everyone. So this entire thing took a toll on the time. So earlier we had to finish by September. Now it got extended to November actually. So this huge stress, and you're working not in AC rooms, you're working under hot sun, and pretty much, it's like hell actually. It's like so much sunlight, this picture doesn't do justice. But if you are there, it's very hot. So these people, we got into that kind of training, and one of the good things that happened with this training was actually this one local entrepreneur called Raju actually. What Raju does is actually he runs a wedding shop. Okay, and their bare income we are talking about 4,000, 5,000 rupees per month actually. Giving all his paying of all his assistants and whatnot. That's what we are talking about, his income. But this guy was actually an entrepreneur at heart. So we kind of, first we kind of brought him in for some welding work initially at the plant, and we started training him, and he saw the work. Then he said, I'm going to bring people and do this work for you. You just tell me how to do it. Okay, so this, this we saw as an opportunity mainly for one of the things is also decreasing cost, because there are people in Hyderabad who do work like this like a no-brainer actually. You give it to them, they'll hand over the entire thing to you in 2 weeks actually. But the cost was exuberant, what they were charging. So as a startup company, we had to decrease the cost. So we had to get these guys, incidentally to reduce the cost, and also we could use the local force. So that was like a double bonanza. So this guy would actually get this labor force, and he got the work done, he got all the panels installed. And this is how the basic framework looks under the solar module. So one of our senior engineers explaining how to get it done. And this is how the finished product looks like. How your mounted structures looks like. So this Raju guy actually could almost bring about 20-25 technicians, and whatever they charge, about 300 rupees, 400 rupees a day, right? So these guys finished the project in whatever time we needed. Right? They assembled everything, they gave it back to us. Now the good thing that happened is, this guy went to the next neighbor and said, I have done this project, please give me your work. So those guys could actually not only decrease their price, they also gave local employment. So not only this guy went to the neighbor, he went to another plant that was about 5 kilometers from there. Not only that, he went to Jharkhand, he went to UP, and he did similar work actually. So this was like, probably not putting it right, but this is like a dream come true. You are empowering, we talk about empowerment, right? You're empowering a guy in a village like Kadri, which, bare minimum, there's just some not even factories or anything. We're talking about Rayalaseema, Anantapur, Kadri, in Kadri Mandal actually. There's barely any factories there and whatnot, very little economy. So these guys started making money, and what you were saying earlier, speaker said in how even a small increase in the this thing makes a huge difference in the, what they, this thing, right? So his sister actually, he could get her married. Within about 4 or 5 months, the money he could make, he could find a suitable guy for her and he got her married actually. So it sounds like a very simple thing, but to his life, you would not believe, when we go, right, he is so thankful for us. He is just like a contractor for us. And it's like, some carpenter comes to our house, he is not going to say, oh, thank you sir, like so many times. But this guy was literally so thankful for us, because that was what we could, do for him. Then these are actually some photos that I wanted to show. We actually use these two kinds of technologies in solar industry actually. One is called thin film, which looks like this. Okay, and another which will be more familiar will be it will look like this actually, these other ones. So another thing is what we did here, we could also implement what is called a tracking technology, which basically it will cost you a little bit more, but it will essentially produce about 20% more output. So you're using the same space, you're using the similar maybe 10% more cost, but you're generating more output. That's what you would always want, out of any limited resources you have.
So when you say tracking technology, is that going to tilt?
Exactly. So right now, if you see that panels are all tilted east actually. Okay, and they start falling. The panels start following the sun around 7 o'clock in the morning, and they slowly start rotating the entire day. And then by evening, by 4 o'clock, they are actually towards west where the sun is. And after the sun sets, they come to neutral position. Okay. So for that, another thing is the couple of challenges that we had as entrepreneur, as a beginners, right? Me personally, was that I had no experience in any civil work or mechanical work, right? But as I am led to believe by myself that I am very smart, I thought I can handle it all actually. So I go there and I see that the soil is pretty crazy rocky actually, and I'll show you. I think even this one, even there's so much, one side it was very hard stone, other side there was so much water oozing out of the, out of this land actually. So this entire civil work, right, it was so tough actually to get it done. And again, your time constraint is being pushed. So we had to, again the time got pushed and we had to finish by January, right? So there's huge stress. And if you don't finish by January, every deadline they start deducting about 10 lakhs or so, right? So there's a penalty every time you do, right? And so I have to get my bonus, project bonus. So it comes out of this savings actually. So I had to. So yeah, so see what this is mechanical installations. You have to actually set up these huge pipes into the ground, because basically it has to sustain the wind forces, which is unlike your regular fixed type actually. So you have to go almost 1.5 meters into the ground. Okay, 1.5 to 2 meters, depends on how the soil is, right? So that's why you need a borewell, because you just need only maybe about a foot of diameter of hole. But you cannot dig. When you start digging, right, you have to make more and more space for digging. So you'll end up actually digging a big hole for a small requirement, which is not practical. So
that is not for water.
No. See, you see all these pipes, right? Each of them is actually dug by a borewell actually. So and they have to be so precise that they are almost about 360 holes or something. You had to get it dug actually. So that was the entire thing. So it took about a month or so, but that's what we got it done.
One quick question. I mean, in the place where you did, how much of the land cost was what percentage of it was your total cost, and how much did it cost roughly?
I think Venkat can comment better on the pricing, because land cost and all I was not.
Kadri, if you know, it's very, very cheap. What we paid is about 2.5-3 lakhs per acre actually. So we got about 6 acres.
Okay.
Which is less than 2% of the project cost then.
Right.
Now it's little more because the cost of solar has come down.
And that's also another plus point for the local guys, because there are a lot of these lands that they own that was barren for so many years, right? So it barely cost like 10,000 rupees per acre or something at one time.
Right.
So your jump from 10,000 rupees to 3 lakhs per acre, it's a huge difference in their lives actually. So it's a good thing, especially if projects come up in places like these. So this shows the skeleton of the mounting structure for this tracking system, and you mount these panels, and there is a solar inverter. Just inside it just looks like this. And these are actually engineers trying to get it done. And these are not laborers and technicians. So every one of us, kind of got into the mud and had to do this thing. And in between all these snakes and pythons and whatnot. So this inverter, this was actually found where I used to work every day. Where I used to test the inverter. So I had this watchman who would make rounds in the morning. So he came back and said, oh, by the way, I found this snake, I killed it. So, this is what it is actually. And so full of snakes, scorpions, snakes and whatnot. This guy on the right side is actually Raju, the guy who I was talking about, who actually did this entire work. And, this is how the plant looks like. So, I think, overall, there's always a question, why did we have to work so hard when, people are doing, there are many people who are doing bigger projects, right? It should be so simple. But the thing is, the solar industry is so competitive, right? And people like Mahindra and Reliance who have the power, the money power, they constantly keep pushing the prices down. So you always have to try to cheapen the cost. So very simple, if you actually have to install a rooftop currently, right? You run cables, right? What I got it done for my office, right, where we put up a plant recently was 1/3 the cost actually. 1/3 the cost of what a contractor in Madhapur electrician was charging. So this comes out of bare necessity to save money, nothing else. But there are so many, it gets more and more complicated. Technically it's so simple actually, but it gets more and more complicated when you get it implemented.
So this is a plant which is, sorry,
Right.
this is connected to the grid, is it? Is that how it is?
Right. So later on I'll explain you actually, if you have time, I'll explain you how the entire grid actually works so that you can remember it better.
This is a tracking
This side you see all the thin film that I was showing earlier. The tracking is to the extreme left actually. It's almost like towards that end. I'm showing it to you from the other side actually. The earlier photo was showing it from the east side. So, we are constantly, even now actually, apart from these megawatt plants, we are also installing these rooftop systems on top of these, buildings. Currently, we just finished one in Mumbai. That was for a factory actually. So, we are constantly trying to. It's not more of an engineering challenge as, we work, technically it's not so, this thing actually, but my boss actually wants us to be the iPhone among all, electrical PV systems actually. So, that's why we are trying to go towards that perfection. So, hopefully we get there.
The thin film and the tracking system, the two things which you are talking about.
Right.
Is there any difference in terms of generating?
Yeah, so basically thin film, your tracking system, because it collects more sunlight, it is following the sun, collects more sunlight, so it generates about 20% more output. Actually.
And the cost also is more for the tracking?
It's about 10% more actually.
And is solar reliable all the 365 days?
Sorry?
Entire year is the solar reliable or?
Yeah, I mean, see, solar basically will depend on the sun, right? So, how you look at it is, instead of looking at it as there are two kinds of systems. There is a grid connected and there is an off grid, right? So, this doesn't have any battery storage. So, this is live power actually. Whatever is pumped into the grid is consumed. Okay, so when you don't have, when you have heavy rain or something, produces maybe 10% or 20% of its installed capacity. Whereas, if you have to do it for villages and so on, or even anything like the ashram that I was telling you, you put up these huge battery banks actually, where you store the power. So it's always, you always have power actually. day or night or whatever
How
time.
much does the cost increase if you have to put the battery banks?
So we have, Mohan or Venkat who can better.
Approximately about 30%.
Well, how far was the nearest marketplace to get all your stuff?
This place is about 6 kilometers from the town,
Okay.
from Kadri town.
So you could get all your engineering supplies and your civil.
Not everything, because see, the steel actually won't get manufactured there because there is no factories. But everything else we could procure there.
Okay.
And yeah, that's another point, again, following the philosophy, we're trying to use the local economy, right? So that's another thing where we bought most of the stuff, unless we can't find it in there, we'll buy there actually. So, any other questions technically? I can later on, if you have interest, I can always come back and show you. Yeah?
Thank you.
Now, the intent of that one was not to, I'm absolutely not here to talk about solar cells. I wanted to sort of, give that experience. Two main things what I saw out of that was, one is this is an opportunity to go to the ground level and make a difference, correct? And that's a fact. We go there to Kadri. I think some of us are treated like God there, though we don't deserve, anywhere close to that. But all we have done was to try to sort of, go there and then engage there. The second thing that challenging about it is, it is just not one VLSI or not one software or not one mechanical or not one electrical. This solar is a very collaborative one, all the way from civil, what you saw, you need a good civil guys, mechanical structures, you need, design analysis guys, you need an electrical guys, of course you need an electronics guys because these are all monitored from your remote system, you need all your Wi-Fi's, your GSMs, GPRS. So it's a very collaborative one, and I can hire 50 guys to do that, or hire one guy who has a motivation to learn the remaining 10 fields actually, correct? So I think that's the key challenge, the key challenge is, typically, for example, I knew if I'm doing a VLSI, all I knew is, give him one Verilog program, I'm done actually, if you can write it and if you can do some basic analytical skills, I can hire him. Here, that thing goes away, that goes away where it needs a very broader spectrum, somebody who can actually draw when you are given a blank canvas, so that's the message that I have. And essentially, all we are trying to do is always, looking at, because the solar is a very nascent field. Of all said and done, India solar did not exist 3 years back. 2009, the solar installation is, less than 10 megawatt, and today we are talking about 1000 megawatt of installation. All of them, bulk of them had happened last year. I will show you one slide, and then it's basically happening. So we are all learning. So all we are trying to do is, wherever is possible, look back and then try to innovate and then do a solution which is, not normal, which is sort of suited for, Indian conditions actually. Yeah, this we talked about. So now I'll talk about let's get into a little bit about the market itself. I think it's important for us to understand. See, what happened was the solar market was dominated by, European market. Europe and the US were pretty much, were the ones which were leading the solar market. US after 2008 went through a little bit of a rut, right? You all know that, correct? So, but the European market, mainly the Germany market, still continued to flourish. And if you look at, till 2011, till last year, Europe, mainly, Germany and Italy had a big share, and India, does not even figure in. It's about 1% as it shows there. Now, what's happening is, this time, as we speak now, right? This is the time for China, Japan, and India where there is a play which is happening. Japanese market has become big just because of the nuclear issue that we had, and they had decided to sort of go for renewables. And then China, they are the global leaders. Anything you want to manufacture, you pretty much end up going to China, and that's where they are leading that. As what is happening is in about 3-4 years down the line, it's going to be a balanced growth. Now what's happening? One market is shrinking, one market is growing. So there are a lot of imbalances are there. Imbalances between the demand and supply, imbalances where the costs are not, where the costs are not properly positioned. All those problems are there. But these are all short-term issues. A few years down the line, that is going to balance out, and that's where the actual story, for countries like India is, is going to be there. This is this Indian power sector scenario. So all of this data I'm presenting is all from MNRE. This whole presentation is also available. This kind of things from the MNRE this thing as well. See, today in India, if you look at it, we have about 208,000 megawatt of installation, which is the installed capacity. Okay, and if you look at it, it's all led by the by the thermal guys, and then of course there is a big part which is for hydro as well. The renewable part of it is very less actually. Okay, so this is renewable including solar, wind, biomass, mini hydel, all of that together. And if you look at it, we are at about 2.25%. As of September 2012, about 2 months back. So this is where the current scenario for India is. Correct? And then if you were to sort of break that down, the 2.25% of renewable, you will find that wind is a predominant factor there. Wind constitutes almost about 70% of that. And of course 13% is from the small hydro one. Solar is about 4%. So if you listen to what Chaitanya was saying earlier, right? So if you are talking about it, on a 200,000 megawatt, we are talking about a 25,000 megawatt of renewable, so which is close to about 10%. Of that one, the solar capacity, as on August, where we have completed 1,000 megawatt, is 1,000 megawatt in 200,000 megawatt actually. Okay, so if you see where to compare that, you are talking about 0.5% actually, which is minuscule. What I'm saying is that the question people ask saying that, oh, will the grid be stable? What happens? We are not there yet. We'll have the same questions addressed possibly about 7-8 years down the line. But here is the time where we need to go and then start building this up, because we are not left with too many options at this point of time. Correct? So we'll talk about those things now. Okay. So advantages of solar energy. Correct. The simple thing is, India is the best country. For example, if you look at countries like Germany, Spain, and Italy, which is covered with the snow for about 3-4 months in a year, they have more solar installations than us. And for those of us who are in AP, we knew, this is no brainer for us. Correct. And then of course the solar, the advantage is the decentralized solution. Correct. For example, if I need for this projector 1 kilowatt of solar, all I need to do is put 1 kilowatt and connect it. I don't care about anything else actually, right? This is not possible in mini hydel. This is not possible in thermal. So it's inherently it's advantageous to go for a smaller system. The same advantage now, what happens is you can actually you can modularize it, right? So today if you have 1 kilowatt, tomorrow if you want to put 5 projectors, have a 5 kilowatt. Just expand as we were seeing in the photograph. You may have one structure, you expand it to multiple structures. It scales up very easily. And now what happens is the fifth point is the price of solar panels have dropped significantly actually. I'll give you an example. The first plant what we did in Sri City, we had project cost of 16 crores per megawatt. So that was the plant which was commissioned in 2010. 2011 is where our Kadri plant was done, which was about 12 crore per megawatt. Today, the CERC costing for megawatt is 8 crore per megawatt. Okay, and there are installations which are even lower than that. If you look at it, it has dropped just not by 50%, but more than that actually. Correct. And of course, there is no recurring fuel cost. I think the question was, do you get a reliable power? The answer is you will get a power as long as sun is there, but sun is reliable, but the only thing is if there are days when you have a cloudy days, you don't get a power. So you need to, so solar cannot replace, somebody was saying, can solar replace the entire energy solution for India? Obviously not actually, correct. You need to have solar and renewable has to add on to the existing ones, because these are all ones where you cannot predict exactly. You can predict to the extent plus minus 5%, plus minus 10%, but you will not be able to predict because there are going to be El Nino effect or whatever. If you don't have sun for 2 days, you will not produce it. But at the same time, we still have a long way to go. We are talking about it can easily, our target of 20,000 megawatt of solar in current capacity is 10%, less than 10%, 208,000 megawatt to 20,000. But the installed capacity is also increasing with every 5-year plan, right? So when that way to happen, it's still going to be much less than 10%, which is not much actually. And of course, reliable in the sense that will the plant go faulty 1 year, 2 years? No, there are cases with the plants. Solar plant is warranted for 25 years. The modules which come with a warranty of 25 years. And there are plants which are running for 35 years, especially with the crystalline silicon one. Thin film plants have been running for a lesser time, 7, 8, 10 years and so on. But it has been proven, because at the end of the day, for those of us in the VLSI industry, it is nothing but a crystalline silicon. If your chip can work for 30 years, there is no reason why this will not work. It's as simple as that actually. There is, yeah.
You said the costs have been going down.
Correct.
I think partly, I don't know if this is correct, if there's any link between the increased investment in the West in the solar PV production. And if you see that going down further?
Correct. I have a slide for that. So the main reason today's cost which is going down is mainly because of slump in Europe. So what happens is there is a cell and module manufacturer have installed the manufactured capacity of certain X. And then mainly due to Spain and then followed by Germany's reduction in feed-in tariff, their market, the projected capacity has fallen down by half actually. Correct. That is one thing that had happened. And second thing is, you all know about China and anti-dumping and so on and so forth. So China, out of the top 10 solar manufacturers, 8 of them are based out of China actually. Correct. So there is a reason for them to sort of go ahead and then give them. And in India, we also have something called an inverted duty structure for solar, which is not very conducive. But going back to that, the main reason is there is a slump in the European market. There is an excess capacity which is available. So there is a demand-supply gap because of which this has fallen down.
So that's likely to be temporary or is it permanent?
No, it's not going to be solved anytime soon. It's going to be there for some more time. I have one slide which sort of talks about a little bit more about it.
What is that negligible maintenance needed?
Yeah, negligible maintenance means if you go to the plant today, for example in Kadri, there is nobody who does any maintenance. The negligible here meaning the panels need cleaning actually. So you need to have the panels, if the dust accumulates on the panel, your output goes down. So you need to have the local guys to go and clean. That's all the maintenance which are needed. Yeah, of course, this leads to the reduced dependency, which is going to be a huge thing. If you were to look at the numbers, this constitutes a big percentage of the GDP itself. And the other thing is hybrid possibilities are, you have a solar, I put a small wind turbine with that, or if I have a biomass, you can basically combine all of this, because at the end of the day you have an AC power which can be combined and then fed it to wherever the consumers are actually. Yeah, so let's talk here. Yes.
Talking about advantages, I just reminded of what the statistic that was given in the first talk.
Correct.
About the overall solar. So for every technology, Kumar gave some idea of what is the power that goes into producing that.
Correct.
And what is the output of that technology. Right?
Correct.
So solar is about 1.6. So which is not a big number considering coal and all are much higher. I think order of 50.
Coal is about 50 and oil is about 30, which is why
30, what is the unit we are talking about?
It's a ratio. Of how much you spend, how much energy you spend. What is the unit of
efficiency?
Return on energy invested.
So what energy you get over its lifetime.
Correct.
So in solar.
Correct.
So it looks a little low. I'm not saying there's a lot. Still, we may need to go that path because we don't have an option.
Correct.
But is that?
The number 1.6, I do not know that, but I think I would go with it. See, the thing is, where is this energy going? Because this is nothing but crystalline silicon, predominantly, correct? And crystalline silicon, like what we have in our chips or something, right? You need to take silicon is nothing but sand, right? it requires a purification which is 99.69 actually. So you need to purify the silica to that extent, which is what the silicon wafer and cell process does, and that requires energy to be fed into that actually. Correct. So one of the questions that was directly this thing was, once you have this energy, cost of sand is zero. Correct. The only cost which is involved is the cost of production or the cost of the purification of silica, and the current existing levels of crystalline silicon cost, right, does not justify the cost of production of silica. So it's basically getting sold at a lower rate than what it takes to produce it because of this, the gap which is there. So now your question is, can we even reduce that still further? Actually, yeah.
So if it's 1.6, it looks a little as a solution.
Correct.
Not as attractive, though sunlight is free, sand is free.
Correct.
But somehow the cost of energy that we're putting in looks really high.
Correct.
So is there an alternative, or is solar thermal, or these are better alternatives you feel overall?
No, solar thermal, I think, we still have to, if you look at the solar thermal, for example, India under the National Solar Program, we had, 1000 megawatt of solar under phase 1, of which 500 has to be solar thermal and 500 has to be solar PV. The 500 under solar thermal is, really having a lot of trouble actually, So,
technology gap, is it?
There is a technology gap which is there, correct. Yeah. So, so the point is, now can we reduce that further? Yeah, I think there is constantly people are innovating new technologies. What used to be crystalline silicon, if you look at the other one, what we had as a thin film is a cadmium telluride, what is called a 3,5 material. Now people are talking about CIGS, which is copper, indium, gallium, diselenide one. There is also CIS. There are new materials which are getting formed. People are also looking at what is called as a hybrid solar ware, which is a thin film of amorphous silicon, which is called as a micromorph technology. So the people are trying to do that. There is an efficiency which is getting improved constantly. What used to be about 12-13% 3-4 years back, today is sitting at 17-18% actually. So constant curve is going to come down. Where will it go? I don't have much of an answer.
So, but you don't feel that the solar thermal solves this problem, because there again the entire technology is a conventional technology.
Correct. So if you
Except
look
that
at it,
heat is coming from elsewhere.
Correct. Correct. See, the only option, the thing with solar thermal is there are two things. As you see, one is the fact of the mirrors and the centralized water heating and so on. That is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is, once that happens, it's a pretty conventional. There is no difference between a thermal plant and a solar thermal plant. But there is here you don't have any of this. Your turbines, your engines, nothing. You have your AC power, which is directly. So that cost of producing that equipment and that energy is anyway removed here. The second problem, what is happening is the efficiency of solar thermal. Has been under a wide spectrum. It is still it's still not India is having full plans to go ahead with solar thermal, but on the ground it has not happened yet actually. So let's talk about okay. So this is all PV one, and then so if you look at it till about 2008, 4 years back, solar did not exist in India in any big way. We all know it, correct? So the first thing that government of India did was, before even I put out a national policy, I will do what is called as a temporary pilot program. So they announced in 2008 saying that we will give 50 megawatt, 2 megawatt each apiece for 25 developers. Whoever who wants to come, can come and then apply for it. So this is how we first applied it. The plant in Sri City is under this called as a GBA program. And then in 2008-9, a lot of states wanted to sort of show. Gujarat led the way, obviously. They basically came up with their phase 1 program saying that I'm going to give 15 rupees per unit for the first 12 years and so on. And then Rajasthan also wanted to follow, but it stopped halfway through for whatever reason there. And then that time so by 2009 things were clear. You knew that approximately this is the cost of solar plant. This is the sort of energy per unit that needs to be produced. So at that time 2009 November is when the national solar policy announced. this came directly as a result of the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which is all the Kyoto protocols and all of this. So result of that. So at that time we put a policy in place at a government, a central government level. We said we are going to do a 20,000 megawatt, and then phase 1 is going to be 1,000 megawatt, and it is going to go in phases. If you look at it, this is the sort of high level policy one. Okay, what happened was they did the first phase is till 2030. We said that we will do about 1,000 megawatt of solar. This is 1,000 of solar, which is PV plus thermal included. By 2017, we will make it at 4,000, but there is a chance that it could be 4,000 to 10,000 megawatt. By 2022, it is going to be 20,000 megawatt. So that's the sort of stake on the ground. There is also this is all grid connected solar plants, like what we have. There is also an off-grid solar program where it started off saying that by end of phase 1 we will do 200 megawatt. We will increase it to 1,000 megawatt in the next 5-year plan, and then increase it to 2,000 megawatt in the remaining 5 years till 2022. And of course, there is a plan for solar lighting system and solar RPO. As per the national plan, the RPO was 3% till 2022, and then now what's happening is, people have already started state level RPOs. RPOs is called as Renewable Purchase Obligation. How many of you are aware of that? Okay, so very, in a very simple way, what happens is if I'm consuming 100 units, right? What the state or the regulatory commission is saying is that 3% of that 100 units, or 3 units will have to be coming from solar. You do whatever you want, so either you put up a plant or you buy it from somebody who has put up the plant, but I want you to show that 3 units are generated from solar, which is what is showing up here.
This is what the utility has to show to the regulator.
Yeah, so the utility in turn will give it to the consumers, but at this point of time, this is the utility's responsibility actually. Correct. Yeah.
Is the RPO confined to only solar or other forms of renewable energy?
No, there is other forms of renewable as well.
So these percentage points are only for solar RPO?
Exactly. So what is shown as 0.25% today is for solar. For the overall renewable is 3% today actually. Okay, and which is basically going to go till 12% till 2022.
One quick question.
Yeah.
Why would a government want to do off-grid? Because government would always want to connect it to the grid, right? So that it can be transported and used. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. So the reason for off-grid is that's not a see the off-grid is solar is a very distributed sort of energy. Correct. Now one way is to put up the solar on a megawatt scale, but megawatt scale is still it depends on the government subsidy, it depends on huge investment and so on. The off-grid is also very similar, but because it's distributed, you can put up an off-grid wherever it is. So the government, what it is doing is, okay, I'll give you 30% of your capital cost as a subsidy for that. You go ahead and then put that up actually. So for solar, both on-grid and off-grid will have to go hand in hand, as it has happened in the rest of the world as well, because it's a distributed.
Off-grid is more effective way of using energy.
Yeah. If you were to see
transmission losses, all these are part of the grid.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. So that's a good point. But the point is implementation of off-grid, right? As a policy level, I think this might be a good forum to talk about. Is not easy actually, because off-grid. I'll give you an example. State of Delhi did what is called as a solar rooftop policy, where they said that okay, if you have a rooftop, go ahead and then put up a solar, and for every unit that you are giving, you consume whatever unit you are using, but every unit you are giving it, right, I will pay you some money for that, which is called as a feed-in tariff, which is the net metering as it's called in US and all, right. Yeah, so now what happened, Delhi government said that for every unit that you are paying, I'll pay you, like what Tamil Nadu government is doing, 2 rupees more or something, right. So if you are paying 6 rupees for the electricity, I'll give you 8 rupees, right. Now our guys are very smart now, so they will take the incoming power which is lower cost and feed the same thing there, and then they will. So it's not easy to implement, because for them to come to every rooftop to figure out what is going on, it's not easy. That's the problem. Otherwise, off-grid is the way to go, just because it removes all your inefficiencies.
Off-grid means you consume whatever you produce.
Yeah.
But the feed-in is part of the off-grid.
Today off-grid is what you consume. If you are going to be producing more than what you consume, whether you like it or not, energy is like water. No, it will go actually. So you will not get any paid. But if they were to put a net metering tomorrow, right, they need to be careful in implementing a policy, because it's not easy to sort of put a framework for that actually. Yeah. because our the thing with our we Indians are we are too good at jugaad actually. Wherever there is an opportunity, we will definitely get in there, right or wrong. Yeah. Okay, so now this is a quick update of where we are on this solar one. The phase 1 is completed, which is basically 2013 is when phase 1 is divided into batch 1 and batch 2. So batch 1 today, if you look at it, the batch 1 has commissioned about 265 megawatt under the National Solar Mission. This is a little boring, so I'll skip all of this because I don't think it. So now what happens is, if you look at it, okay, the 2 points, what had happened was, look at it, the tariff, the power, the price that government is giving for the unit of power, used to be 1791, then it dropped to 15 rupees. Then when the phase 1 project happened, it dropped to 12.16, right? And then when the phase 2 happened, it has dropped to 8.77. So which means that every unit of solar power today costs you 8 rupees 70 paisa. This is as of March. It has still fallen down now. It's about 8.5, 8.05 or something.
Look at the state's solar mission apparently is giving 14 rupees or something. No, is it?
Yeah, I have that. Next slide is rightly on the statewide actually. Oh, okay, not this one, but the other. So now what happens is, if you look at it, this is another very good example of, what could a policy do or not do actually. Correct? See, because if you look at it, Gujarat, of course, has done 70% of the solar. Okay, but Gujarat is not the number 1 state for solar in terms of insulation. Correct? Which is the number 1 state? Rajasthan. Correct? Rajasthan, for whatever government inefficiency or whatever the reason, could not do that. Rajasthan, if you look at it, they have about 200 megawatt. And the remaining other states, if you leave Rajasthan and Gujarat out, right, the remaining states which are good is AP is good, and then of course Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, they are all in the same category. AP also, correct, actually missed out actually. If you were to see, this could have been much more than what it is there actually. So this is clearly, a policy can make a difference in terms of, both at the state level, which in turn can have a significant impact. If you look at the national...
Andhra Pradesh 22, out of which you yourself is having some...
Correct. So yeah, correct. So our plant today about 3.5 megawatt in that, correct. Yeah, correct.
Fully in Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah, fully. And then of course now what is happening is, now I think I have, yeah, so this is a state level one actually, correct? So if you look at it, what happens is Gujarat is leading the way. They have already announced it for 968 megawatt of solar, of which they have commissioned 690 megawatt. Now Maharashtra, they have announced 205, they announced a 40 megawatt project which was set up by Reliance in Rajasthan actually. Yeah, so Karnataka, I think there are a lot of cases for RTA here, man, actually. So Karnataka, they have recently done 80 megawatt of, announcement. They have allotted it to about 8 developers, and the tariff is, lowest tariff is 7.94 actually. Okay. Rajasthan, finally they woke up, said that we are going to now, do that. They have announced for 200 megawatt. Odisha, they have already awarded 25 megawatt, and then they are coming up with this phase 2 policy for Odisha as well. Madhya Pradesh, they have already awarded 200, which has gone to 2 big companies. One guy has been allotted 125 megawatt in one shot actually. And then Tamil Nadu, you might have seen very recently, last week it came for 1000 megawatt. Andhra Pradesh, this policy was announced 3 days back. And we have a first pre-bid meeting on Friday actually. Andhra Pradesh is also doing, where they have announced for 1000 megawatt actually. So if you look at all of this, what we are talking about now, all of them are planning to do everything in this 5 year actually, before 2017. This itself is more than 5000 megawatt actually. Okay, so this is nothing to do with the national level where they are talking about additional 4000 megawatt. But knowing all of this, I know I would be very happy if we can do about 40% of this actually. AP, maximum about 100, 150 megawatt, it's a big success.
So my question was on the cost.
Correct.
What is the cost that, is the center giving a part of the cost that our state mission? So state says I'll give you 7 rupees and central says another 5.
No, nothing. So in this case, what happens is, states like Andhra Pradesh, right? They have this renewable purchase obligation, correct? So Andhra Pradesh has close to about 20,000 megawatt of power plants, of which the ones which comes under renewable, because you have to take out the idle part of it, about 13,000 megawatt. So 13,000 megawatt under the AP ERC scheme, you need to have 0.5% of that have to come from solar. So if you were to do 15,000 megawatt, 1% is 150, 0.5 is 775, which is going to increase. So this is basically done to meet their RPO obligation. So it's basically done at the state level, where either they have to purchase the solar power at the energy exchange, or they put up the plant themselves. All the states are doing under that obligation.
So the cost will be based on bidding.
Absolutely, it's all based on bidding. Every state is doing it little differently, but fundamentally what is called as a price discovery mechanism, right? Do you say that, hey, I want to set up this many, AP does not have a lower limit, it does not have an upper limit, okay? So you can bid for any megawatt there. So you say that, okay, I'm going to bid for it, I'm going to pay you, let's say, per, my solar, you give me like, 7 rupees per unit. Other guy comes and says that you give me 7.5 rupees, third guy comes says give me 6 rupees. So AP says that now I have a 6 rupees tariff, who are all the guys who can come for this? Whoever wants to come in will be allotted the project. It's basically a price discovery mechanism. Tamil Nadu is going little differently. What they are doing is, okay, so now AP is what is saying that, okay, for national level, they'll say, okay, I will pick the lowest 30 bidders and allot one project each one of them. So the bid price can actually vary, if you see here, right? See, the phase 2, the bid price minimum was 749, maximum was 944. So the guys who are setting it up, one guy is getting paid for the same plant 7.5 rupees, the other guy is paying 9.5 rupees. So because what they have done, they have chosen the bottom 20 guys. Whereas in Tamil Nadu and AP, what they are planning to do is, I'm going to give it to you at one price, whoever the lowest price. If you guys can meet it, come and meet it actually. So what it means is that if one really disgruntled guy can come and then basically mess around the whole system actually. But I'm sure they'll have the right set of
whatever the cost it is agreed, is it going to be maintained for a certain amount of time?
Good question. Yeah. So for example, it depends from state to state or from the center. The center schemes are all the prices agreed for 25 years, which is called as the PPA term. At the states it changes. Gujarat, it says that I will give you so much for the first 12 years, remaining 13 years I am going to reduce it. Tamil Nadu says that you give me start with one price and then I will keep on increasing by 5% year after year. AP says that I am going to keep it, I think the PPA term is 20 years more? 25, okay. So Tamil Nadu is 20. Yeah. So it basically changes from state to state actually.
Yeah, because the cost is coming down, right? See,
Correct.
Infrastructure cost and installation cost is coming down.
Correct.
So whoever comes late into the market,
Correct.
they have the opportunity to give the
Better
power
price.
for better price.
Correct.
So then whoever installed so far,
Correct.
they may be in the loss.
No,
until
that's a good
unless
point.
it is until unless there is a rigid price.
Correct. So how that scheme works is, for example, if you look at it here, see, this is the slide. See, for what happened, the guys who set up very first, right, they were paid 1791, correct? The guys who set up little later, they were paid 15, because these are all different policies, right? So now, afterwards they were paid 12. So the price also keeps on decreasing. So let's say if somebody comes 1 year down the line, wants to bid for this project will not be available, because this 1000 megawatt, they are starting the bid now, closing the bid in whatever 90, 120 days. From that time, whoever who is applied will be allotted the project. Next time when they want to set it up, they have to come under the next year's scheme actually. So that is one thing. And the second thing is, the price discovery, you are right. That is one way to look at it, because the cost is coming down. The other way to look at it for the policy makers is the energy cost is going up, correct? So now Tamil Nadu is saying that, hey, for first few years, you take a loss, because for me, because I am getting it at 2.5 rupees, I will possibly pay you 4.5 rupees for your solar. So you lose money, but they guarantee saying that I will give you 5% increment year over year, right? Now what happens, 5% increment for over a 10-year period, you are doubling the price. So you are talking about 4.5 rupees, you will be get 9 rupees then, when the cost of solar at that time would be 6 rupees actually. So it's a various way of formulating it. I'm pretty sure some policy expert can throw a lot more light than what I can do actually. Yeah, so this is the off-grid one. Off-grid one, if you look at it, what happens is we had a target which is going to complete in the next 4 months to complete 100 megawatt of off-grid actually. Okay, and this off-grid program in India is a disaster. Because if you look at it, the project sanctions have been so much, but the project actually got installed this 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt. We have not been even meeting the target. Again, I think it is more to do with implementation mechanisms of the policy. So for the next phase of this off-grid, they are revamping the whole policy, so which is going to be better, and hopefully some of this things is going to be addressed. And if you look at it, the important areas for off-grid is agriculture water pumps. It's a huge opportunity because a lot of places, what happens is the problem is not just power availability. In places like Kadri, what happens is every alternate week the power comes only in the night, correct? So the farmers pretty much don't care about the underground water level or something. They turn it on because for them power is more important than water. So as long as the power is available, the water is basically fed into their fields actually, correct? So because they don't want to come at 3 o'clock and then turn off the pump, and then so that's the problem is one is non-availability of power, the other one is very inefficient usage of your natural resources. And of course telecom towers we talked about, and then you have supplementing power generation to diesel is a huge opportunity, because many places, including this building, you are paying 15 rupees, 20 rupees for the diesel, whereas the cost of solar power is 7, 8 rupees only now actually, correct? So, and then of course rural lighting where there is no grid available. Yeah, so this is the target. I think this is the. So what happens was, I think that everybody has a target. It's like looking into the crystal ball. Nobody knows how this is going to play out. But I like this because I think it's a conservative number. It looks like by year end of 2017, we would end up with about 7,600 megawatt of solar PV actually. And of course, the two major things is the thin film one, what we talked about earlier. That's slowly going to go down in number because the crystalline silicon has become more competitive, which is sort of going to stay like that for at least another year and a half more. And then Government of India's target is 4 to 10 gigawatt, correct? So 10 gigawatt is too aggressive, but about 8 gigawatt is a better number actually. Yeah. So this is the cost reduction roadmap. What happens is today the cost of solar today is about little less than $1 per watt, about 45 rupees, 48 rupees per watt is the cost of solar. But the problem is, if I buy the solar panel from China, I get it at a lower price than if I were to buy it in India. Correct? So there is a duty structures are not correct, which is going to be addressed very soon. Once that happens, that's going to bring in almost about 12 cents difference in the cost of solar panel, which is still going to go down. And then of course the improvements in yield efficiency, which is happening year over year, will also bring it down by another 10 cents. So where it is going to sort of happen is about 70 cents per watt actually. 70 cents per watt is going to be about 35 rupees or so actually, which is where it is going to stabilize. 35 rupees, if you are going to get a solar panel, your cost of power from the solar is going to be about 6 rupees then actually, which is still going to come down from where it is now.
So, yeah, what is the 35 rupees? What do you get? I mean,
you get okay. So what happens is okay. So if you are doing a 1 kilowatt, correct? So you have 1 kilowatt of solar panel actually. So that 1 watt price is 35 rupees. So that's the cost per watt. That's how the solar. If you are doing a 1 megawatt, I need to shell out 3.5 crores to put up that 1 megawatt for the solar panel alone. But there is also a balance of system, inverters and rest of the thing. That's going to be at least another 30-40% of the cost.
Just to understand, I'm asking this.
No, please go ahead.
So let's say for a typical household,
correct,
right? Take a village household for example.
Correct.
How much would a village household consume versus let's say how much does a 3 or 4 member family with maybe an AC? How much do they consume? Any?
Correct. Yeah. So I'll talk about this. Basically, the village homes in the sense that places like Kadri, for example, or even a rural village. typically their requirement is about 2 CFL lamp and then 1 radio, 1 mobile charger. At the best they may have a small fan actually, right? So with that kind of thing, your 1 kilowatt system, if it is designed right, it can do about 70 homes can be powered by 1 kilowatt actually. Okay, that is for the village one. Now, if you are talking about one guy who is living in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, correct? If he has a light and then 1 or 2 fans and then possibly a TV. Which is if he is there, correct? So that would be about 500 to 600 watts per home actually. Okay, but a typical, if you are talking about a 3 bedroom without AC and without refrigerator, he would need about a 1 kilowatt system actually. The rest of the urban household in Hyderabad kind of thing. If you have a 1 kilowatt system, you will be able to run, if you have 2 or 3 rooms, all the fans you will be able to run. You will be able to run your tube lights and CFLs you will be able to run. And you will be able to run your, either a computer or your, your TV kind of thing with, charging and those kind of things. What you will not be able to run is if you have a microwave or if you have a big refrigerator or if you have a AC, then, then you need a bigger system.
So roughly about 50,000 rupees, a household can run with all the appliances that you mentioned. Is that reasonable understanding?
Which household in Hyderabad?
Let's say in Hyderabad with what you mentioned, right? Maybe 2-3 fans plus let's say 3-4 lights and maybe 1 TV and stuff like that.
So there is one guy who is sitting there, he has these numbers on the back of his head, so let him come and then talk about it. I think let him talk about, Mohan, if you can basically talk about one which is little for a building kind of thing and one for a household, and then sort of give an idea. And I think what you would also want to see is, when will I get the money back also, right? Or in the sense that, what is my return on investment? I think I would request him. So, I hope, your time is precious, so we'll tell them whenever we'll wrap it up and then we'll do it. So the renewable energy projections, what's happening now, we are talking about our crystal ball is even more magnified now. So you're talking about till 2027, look at it here, till 2012 we talked about 25,000 megawatt, which is about 10% overall renewable energy. Solar is at 0.5%. If you look at this growth, is a very important one. 2 things come out very clearly, right? First is, look at the solar growth. It's almost exponential in growth actually, correct? Which is bound to happen. May not be the exponential. The curve may be different, but it is going to grow at a high pace. And the second thing that's happening is this wind is sort of little tapering off, in terms of their growth. Because wind has certain potential, but it also has certain limitations as well. So if you look at 2027, the solar, the total this thing is going to be almost about 200,000 megawatt. So 200,000 megawatt is our total installed capacity today. So in another 15 years, 200,000 megawatt is going to be coming from renewable alone, which is going to be about 25% of our overall energy. So we would be consuming by then almost about 1 billion watts. So and then of course the biomass also has that, but biomass has all the the feedstock and other issues which are there, but that's also going to happen.
So Venkat, what is the source of income?
Yeah, so if you look at it, this is basically done from all of them. There is a source. So there is a the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has appointed Standard Chartered Bank along with Fitch to do this study. There is a report which is available. You can download it from the MNRE website. Okay, so Mohan, can you just now come and talk about it, and we'll conclude it. I have 5 minutes only for you. Yes, please.
So we were talking about small modules.
Correct.
The typical household, if I want to run an induction cooker.
Correct.
So how much I have to invest? What is the capacity? I want to run only induction cooker.
Only induction cooker. Who can tell me what is the power consumption of an induction cooker?
I have given a small article.
Okay.
The technical details are there.
You are there. Okay.
The second page which is there, the actual details.
Induction tower 2.2 kilowatt rating. Got it. Yeah. And then with this induction, how many hours in a day do you run it?
Normally morning 1.5 hour, evening about 1 hour.
1 hour. Sir, shall we do that? I'll take 2 minutes and then we'll go through that. It may be useful. Can I have one? This white. Both market, this. What? So I think how this, I'll go through this design. See, what happens is you need about 2.5 hours, 1.5, about 4 hours in a day. So which means that you need 2.2 times 4 actually, which is about 8.8 kilowatt hours, or 9 kilowatt hours is what you need per day.
I don't think. Actually, total consumption will be about 1.5 kilowatt.
Oh, but it is. I just saw now if we.
Capacity.
The rating is 2. Here, is this a 2.2 or is it lesser than that?
Yes,
Thanks.
now we have got one induction to charge.
1.5 kilowatt.
Kilowatt.
Okay.
And we are using, I think, only 1 unit is consumed per day.
1 unit. So which.
Normal.
So it's less than I would think so. Okay, let's go through that. So what happens is your rating is 1.5 kilowatt, correct? And then consumption per day is 1 unit actually, correct? Which is 1 unit is nothing but 1,000 kilowatt hour, right? Now, so now what happens is batteries, whenever you are designing, you need to have battery what is called as a depth of discharge. So you don't want to completely drain the battery. So your battery capacity should be approximately about 40% more than that. Let's assume 1,500 kilowatt hour is the battery which is needed actually, correct? So what it means is that, sorry?
Water.
1000 watt.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thanks. Yeah, so 1,500 watt hour is what is needed. And then, assuming that, batteries, there are 2 batteries that you are using at 24 volt, what it means is that 150 divided by 24, it's approximately about 60 ampere hour is the battery capacity you need actually. Correct? So this is what, so you are, now if you want to charge 60 ampere hour, let's say you are charging for about 6 hours, which is what the sun is available. So your charging time is about 6 hours. So if you want to charge a 60 ampere hour, you need to be charging at 10 amperes, 60 ampere hour by 6 hours, right? So your charging current is 10 amperes. So each solar panel, for example, if you have a 125 watt solar panel, generates about 5 amperes of current, depending on. So solar panel, what you need is 125 by 2 or a 250 watt solar panel. Correct. So 250 watt solar panel, generates about 24 volt and then generates. So if you have a 250 watt system, you will be able to run your, induction power for 1. Am I right? Okay. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
So how much it will be?
The cost of that, okay. So today, if you a thumb rule costing for you, just to is one kilowatt or 1 watt is as per the MNRE guidelines is rupees 1. What is the latest one? Rupees 150. Mohan actually is what?
160.
160
with battery.
160 with battery. So it's about 160 rupees per watt. So in this particular case, it is going to be 40,000 rupees for you.
I got 160 without battery. In battery, it's around 210.
210, okay, yeah. That's okay. I think we'll figure it out. I think. Yeah. So if you do this, then what happens is, if you were to see the return on investment, correct? On this scale, it doesn't make sense, right? Why? Because you are consuming 1 unit, correct? On a month, you use 30 units. Your cost of this thing, what you are paying is about 5 rupees or 5.5 rupees, right? So your monthly bill on that is about 150 rupees only, right? But you are spending, 40,000 rupees. So which means that you are going to get your money back in 10 years, right? It will work only when 2 reasons. One, because solar is expensive, we all agree, correct? when you are using, for example, an inverter or a battery or a DG to run your induction because the power is not available, that's when you are paying 15 rupees, 18 rupees for your diesel, whereas you are paying 7 rupees, 8 rupees for your solar.
Here, more than economic, we are looking at the climate.
Correct.
So, reducing the LPG consumption.
Correct.
That is the aim.
Correct.
So, for that reason, how much we have to invest actually.
Correct. Correct.
For that, I want to say.
Correct. So I think you can take that number, and then I can also give you a detailed design in what is the panel capacity and so on.
So that we can promote in urban areas.
Correct.
At least each people they can go for it.
Correct.
Instead of you asking for a subsidy or not.
Correct.
So LPG subsidy actually nobody deserves.
Correct.
Whoever is staying in the
This also includes subsidy.
No, these are all plain numbers. The subsidy comes on top of this.
How much is the subsidy per watt?
30% of this. So you are basically getting a 30%, it's 48 rupees on this.
As a layman, I estimated 50,000. I think I am right.
No, absolutely. So you are more than a layman, I think. I see. Yeah, actually, the thing is, people tend to think that, oh, I have a 1 kilowatt load, I need a 1 kilowatt solar, okay? That is the wrong assumption, which is the design does not work that way. Design only way it works is, oh, I have a 1 kilowatt load, do I run it for 5 hours, do I run it for 10 hours? How much is the backup I need? And based on that, your solar is decided for an off-grid system.
So batteries compulsory. Without battery, I have just directly use it like
You can, yeah. So the thing is, you need to then turn on your induction stove only when the sun is available. Right, election, not your mom will not allow that. So can I request Mohan to come very quickly and then we will wrap it up.
Meanwhile, can I have a question?
Yeah.
Solar piping lights.
Correct.
There is a new one just coming in. I think that is used in green buildings. Like instead of using some your CFL bulb in the daytime, you have the infrastructure in such a way that the light is reflected into the room.
Correct.
So can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, I do not know about it. I have also read, but I think possibly somebody from GBI here, the CII Green Building Initiative may talk. I have seen that, but I don't know the details about it.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mohan Reddy. I work along with Venkat. I think you guys are familiar now with all these terminologies like off